Aloha, everyone. It's Lady, your friendly neighborhood Hesher, and welcome to the Hesh Files, a place where I interview musicians about all of the strange and unusual things that they see out on the road. So strap on your best high tops, ease the seat back, and get ready to be a metaphorical fly on the wall because we're going Heshin'. Aloha, everyone. I'm your host, Slavey, and welcome back to the Hesh Files. Today's guest comes all the way out from North Carolina. I've got the song and dance man himself, Schuylar Croom from He Is Legend. Welcome to the Hesh Files, my dude.
Aloha, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
My pleasure.
First things first, I do have to ask, or I wanted to ask about the holiday hootenanny from a few months back with Under Oath at the Tabernacle in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean our hootenanny is it's kind of our own thing, but we just did a run of shows to kind of warm up for that. So we played there 20 year of Only Chasing Safety there.
Damn.
And the Tabernacle's great. I mean, I've seen Tom Waits there.
Wow.
I think I saw Nick Cave there. Like just so many great gigs. And the only time we've ever played it really other than that was with Seven Dust on their like I think it was
Shit.
10-year anniversary. Yeah, yeah. They've always been so nice to us. Really
Rad.
solid dudes. But yeah, it's a great spot and we've known Under Oath since we were young kids. So it was nice to be able to see them and play with them. And yeah, we did hit right after that we did Living Sacrifice like 2 nights and
Okay.
Oh Sleeper, like did some Texas shows and then came back and did our little holiday gig at Cat's Cradle in North Carolina. This year was a little more intimate because we had some bands from the Triangle. Dusty from Between the Buried and Me,
Wow.
his band Glass Casket. They
Okay.
played like first time in a long time. And this band called Classic Case that we were always huge fans of. They haven't played in a very long time either. So it was less about us this year and more about just kind of the community, like just making something happen for the Triangle in that area is so
Hell
important to
yeah.
us. We recorded most of our records up there, at least tracking, at least one part or the other has been within that area, the Triangle. So Carvero's special, the Cat's Cradle's a legendary venue, like Nirvana's played there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like it used to be kind of a punk dive, and now with
Yeah.
the way the triangle's kind of working out, everything's growing, Durham, Raleigh, Greensboro, they all kind of you can get to them in like 30 minutes, so it's a
Yeah.
it's a dope spot for our fans, it's a couple hours from home, but Wilmington's like the end of I-40, so
Okay. Okay.
it's hard to it's a destination spot. You don't really pass through, we're at the beach. So
Sure.
my whole life growing up, if you wanted to see a show, you would go to Cat's Cradle or you would go to the House of Blues at Myrtle Beach if you were going to catch some like new metal.
Oh, damn. House of Blues is always good for shows.
Yeah, I mean, and this one's kind of tiny. The shows are always pretty intimate there as well. But we also played there with Seven Dust the only time we've ever played there, which is odd because it's like an hour from us. So,
Damn.
but a real good spot, man. I mean, I grew up seeing like Power Man 5000 and like
Hell yeah.
saw Marilyn Manson there. I saw Ween there.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
I just got a notification on my phone that Power Man 5000 is doing a tour this summer.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I would tour. I would go on that tour.
Yeah, that would be fucking incredible. I mean, you guys and Power Man, that would be pretty rad.
That was like my earliest, kind of like my first dates traveling out of town by myself, because my mom and my stepdad always had a like a camper trailer in like a place like near Little River, Charlotte area. It's right on the border of North and
Okay.
South Carolina. And it was on the waterway there, Ocean Isle Beach. And we would be there all summer. My mom would spend, she would spend the entire summer there because she drove a school bus. So summer was always chill for her. We just like I would when I first got my license, they like would allow me to go just cruise the strip in Myrtle Beach and like
Damn.
so there were multiple times that I caught Power Man 5000 and I must have been like 18, but it was like kind of the trend now, like baggy cyberpunk kind of clothes, and like
Mm-hmm.
they always had black lights on stage, and their hair was always like manic panic, like trippy colors, and they would use like super soakers and spray like colored water on
Yeah.
people. It's kind of like Diet Guar, but like
Right, right.
with this like Rob Zombie esque like new metal like thrashy kind of neon grunge, and I loved it right away.
I remember I grew up seeing them too because they used to come through. I grew up in Sacramento and they would come through the boardwalk
Love
out
that
there.
spot.
Yeah, that spot's incredible. And I remember at least one time that I had seen them, one of the guitarists had like almost like a Daft Punk style space helmet on, had
Yeah,
these laser LED lights for the eyes, and I mean
yeah,
it was just
it was
something you didn't
groovy.
see.
Yeah, it's like its own thing, and I don't think they like ever got. I mean, I know that song like "Worlds Collide" was pretty huge, like
Yeah.
Radio Rock. I just don't feel like they ever got what they deserved. Maybe, kind of. I guess we're all kind of learning right now that you just the more you play, the later in life it gets. Like you realize that you've always kind of had what it is.
Hmm.
Like we're kind of noticing that now in the 20-year anniversary of I Am Hollywood. It's like, oh, our fans come out, and they still like everything. It's been organic. Like we've never paid for bots or, like paid for
Yeah.
listens or likes, but
Hmm.
what you see online of our following is like completely there, and it's
Right.
organic and it's engaged, and our fans show up. We're
Yeah.
really lucky in that regard.
Well, so that's actually a pretty good segue because, I did, obviously I wanted to get into the whole 20-year thing. I mean, that's a long time for a band to be around.
Yeah.
After all those years, what stands out the most to you?
I think if I had to like give advice, me, Matt, and Adam have been best friends since we were maybe 18, 19 when this band kind of started
Damn.
under different names, of course, but like fresh out of high school. We always challenged each other to be, like not pieces of shit.
Hmm.
And our friendship stood the test of time. I mean, of course, we like bicker like family, but we are
Sure.
family. I've
Oh,
spent
yeah.
more time with. I've slept in a bed with Matt Williams more than I probably have any lover. Like, um, and we're just we're family, and
Yeah.
the bonds of this band are really strong. And I think the other fact that keeps us kind of sane is we don't really meddle in each other's lives much. We have enough space on the road to exist. We've worked out our touring pretty fail safe with just the way we travel, the things we will and won't do,
Hmm.
just learning over time, how to make it work, because mental health is taxed like to the utmost degree when you're traveling like that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there is a light, there's like a school of it. There's a lot to learn. I think your horizons are broadened hugely just by leaving town and leaving the country and seeing cultures. And
Oh, absolutely.
but that doesn't exist on just a road trip. You've got to get out and like get to the streets, and you've got to get past the McDonald's and the Pilot and the Wendy's and the Iron Skillet to really see what America is and the meat of
Right.
it. And we've all grown up doing that. I mean, none of us really did much college education. I have never taken a class outside of high school, so
Damn. Okay.
um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, just school of hard knocks. But 20 years later, still enjoying each other's company and still like, still just doing the thing.
Yeah.
It's a nice relationship. It works out for us, and we haven't had any huge lineup changes that have like vastly affected the band. I mean, we've gone through like different drummers, and we've
Hmm.
had different second guitar players, but the lineup now with Zach Nobles playing second guitar, like he's been around our band since its infancy. Like I think he was at our
Okay.
first show. He
Wow.
probably knows more about He Is Legend than we do as a watcher.
Sure.
He needs to start doing podcasts and like spilling the tea. Like,
Yeah.
he'd be a good guy to have on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely have to speak with that guy and see what gems he's got from the infancy of He
Yeah,
Is Legend.
yeah, and like with Jesse, it's a new life. I think most people could see that White Bat really kind of catapulted what we were and like
Right.
solidified what we were. And then Endless Hallway being a pandemic record that like had a lot of angst and got back to like our roots of just like heavy metal. And
Hmm.
yeah, there was a lot. We've learned a lot over the last 7 or 8 years that we've had Jesse in the band, and he brings like a vitality that we might have been lacking before. But yeah, all good things right now. I think we're especially with the Hollywood run last year, and then this year the album came out in November in 2004. So really, we toured for like a month on it, and then music industry shuts down from like December to well, honestly, like after Halloween
Hmm.
to like February, there's not a lot
Yeah.
going on,
Yeah. Not
So
much happening.
yeah, so doing this second leg around the spring it feels right. This is when we
Yeah.
would have been doing the most touring back then.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that second leg of the tour because you guys are actually coming right down the street from where I'm at now. So I'll be seeing you guys at the Whiskey.
Oh yeah,
Fucking stoked
awesome,
for
dude.
that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the last time we played it or not, but we got robbed after the show. It was like we sold it out. It was a
Oh,
dope show. It was on the White Bat run because we had just left. We had just left tour with the Damn Things,
oh
and
shit.
yeah, I think our last show with the Damn Things was like in Sacramento. We had a one off after that, just kind of getting back and played the Whiskey.
Hmm.
Had a really dope show, like tons of people there, and then loaded out, and we were like, we it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was like we could go catch one drink at the Rainbow Room,
Yeah.
and then leave. And so we left the van parked in front of the Whiskey. We had buddies in Crowbot we had been on the road with them just before that. I think they were actually on that Damn Things run. So they played the Viper Room and we played the Whiskey. And one of the homies from Crowbot had walked by and noticed our window was smashed out. And they took like
Oh,
8 of our book bags, like
fuck.
nothing too like nothing. Well, I mean, I lost my stepfather's ring, which was like a big bummer. Like I still,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like sentimental things was really
Sure.
the biggest pisser. But
Hmm.
yeah, so the Whiskey will always be one of those places where we're like lock the doors, like like somebody's got to stay with the van.
Yeah.
But they're always wild shows. I mean, it's a legendary venue, and
Hmm.
I always love playing it.
Yeah, no, I'm beyond excited that you guys are coming through there, especially with Cancer Bats. I mean, that's how did it come about that you guys got Cancer Bats for this tour? I mean, what?
We've been homies with the Cancer Bats since maybe like when we first started. I think we did some shows with them. I mean, God, probably 20 years ago.
Okay.
And we just were always kind of aligned. We loved that they were like this kind of Southern inspired Canadian rock
Yeah.
group. Liam was always the sweetest guy. We had a lot of mutual friends, and we've always talked about bringing them on a run. And they're just, they're in that space right now where they're doing a lot more as well. So
Hmm.
it just worked out finally. But I've always mentioned them when we go to tour. I'm always like, can we bring the bats out?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very stoked. The lineup's gonna be cool. We get to do the makeup shows. We got really sick on the last run and had to cancel LA. So
Damn.
that was like the most important reason to do a part two, other than getting to the Pacific Northwest, because we haven't been up to Portland or Seattle in like 6, 7 years. So
Yeah, I saw that
um,
on your Instagram. Like that's how have you guys not been to the Pacific Northwest in that long?
I think there's a lot of odd red tape when we switch booking agents and then managers. We've kind of gone through the motions of getting our team like really tight and, for lack of a better word, cutting the fat. And
Hmm.
because we do a lot of the stuff ourselves. Hollywood, the first Hollywood leg was like the first time we've ever taken out an actual tour manager. I usually do
Okay.
all the TM duties. So first time having front of house and tour managing, and like it's kind of like it's time. There's steps that
Yeah.
we have envisioned. Like we've always been in a van and trailer in the States. I don't see us doing a bus tour anytime soon, but like those are like next step watermarks that we have in mind, and that was one of them. Like for a tour like this with VIP, there's a lot more moving parts. So
Yeah.
but yeah, for some reason, one reason or another, like, when you move booking agents, there's always this litmus test of like the numbers you've done in the past.
Okay.
Since it had been so long since we had been there, like obviously our numbers from the past were low, and it's like you can't, we get support tour looks, but it's been a while since we've done a real like decent sized support tour, and then COVID obviously knocked the legs out from a lot of bands,
Oh
and
yeah.
everything kind of changed after that. So new world vibes, trying to figure out like the run of things. And
Hmm.
for us, it was just like get back on the road any way you can. And that was, headlining a bunch of shows. But we've got some support stuff coming up this year. I don't think it's announced yet, so I don't know if I can mention it. But there are things like we're working out for
Okay.
later in the year that are going to be rad.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to keep up to date with that stuff. Well, so
Yeah.
again, over these last 20 years, is there one particular tour that you just can't get out of your head?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, there's a tour that was not great for us that I think about a lot because Adam and I lost a dear friend while we were in Canada with Under
Uh,
Oath and Silverstein, and we were all on the same record label, and there was just this moment of us like having a real life meltdown
mhm.
on the road and feeling that we had to go be with family,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of talk like within like, the powers that be that were, promoting the tour or whatever, basically within the label, trying to convince us to stay on, and like it would be a bad look for us to just bounce off a tour. But it was unheard of for us, like this was the person that actually introduced me to Adam Tamboos, and
Wow.
it was Adam's first, one of his first band, or his first band. They were, kind of in just a like rock band in
Hmm.
high school, but that changed us forever. Losing Josh, and it was kind of like under bizarre circumstances. So there was that aspect too. Like when we were told that
Uh,
it happened, we didn't know what actually happened, and
okay.
so yeah, and there's still like it's still kind of a mystery as to like what actually happened. It doesn't really fit the narrative of what law enforcement says happened. So that, on top of the fact that we were so close with the family, and like it was just like it was a no-brainer for us. We had to leave,
Yeah.
like
Of
no
course.
no tour was gonna, like, no amount of kids at a show was gonna affect whether or not we were gonna go home
Right.
to be with family. So that tour sticks out in my mind because I remember the day that we heard it. I remember the show that we played. And then after that, it was a blur just driving home from Canada. Adam flew home.
Okay.
And so we just basically bounced. And I feel like that kind of hurt us as a band in the eyes of like the suits, for lack of a
Mm,
better
sure.
term. I feel
Yeah.
like it was kind of like this. I mean, we also we brought a lot of it on ourselves just from being young, like young punk, like, do what we want kind of guys. And we've always had this amount of integrity to where, like, we were on the Killswitch Engage tour. We had been taxed so hard going through Canada the first time. They like held us at gunpoint and made us count our merch, and like
Fuck.
pretty wild. So when we got to Vancouver, we just didn't go. They were like, "Are you guys here?" And we were like, "No, we didn't come." I mean, so like those things were probably not the wisest decisions, but for
Hmm.
us, it was like
It
an
made
amount of
sense.
like it was punk, like, I mean, we were just like, "Fuck that, we're not getting taxed." Like, look at these guys; they're gonna pull our merch again,
Yeah.
and we were playing for like $100 a night. Yeah, like these life kind of learning lessons, learning curve things in the early aughts. There was too much music, there were too many bands, there were too many
Hmm.
tours, and we're almost back to that now, where
Right.
like everything's kind of getting oversaturated. And for a while there, COVID had kind of separated the men from the boys. I hate using that.
But it
The wheat from the shaft.
I mean,
I
that's a
think
good description though.
it showed, yeah, because we're out there like getting back into it and jumping in while things were still fishy.
Hmm.
It was a mental mind fuck. Like you would go to some shows in some cities and everybody be masked up, and like, you know, some venues required you to show your vax card. Like some venues
Wow.
wouldn't let you in if you didn't have a mask, two masks. And then you would hit these rural cities where like you're passing a joint back and forth again, and
Right.
you start to question like the reality of the situation. And at the same time, you would see bands like hit the road and then in the midst of a tour cancel because it was too taxing. It was
Yeah.
too much a strain and not like what it used to be. I know, I mean, there were definite instances of like I'd see people playing at drive-ins or like, you know, sitting in their cars, and we didn't want to be a part of that.
Damn.
We kind of we entertained the idea of playing It Hates You and doing a live thing, so we learned it, and when we got ready to play it, it was like around Thanksgiving, and they were suggesting that we don't even see our families, and I'm like, well,
What?
I can't go see seven people for Thanksgiving, then I probably shouldn't put 12 people in a room to record and do a live stream, you know. And
Sure.
some of those live streams were badass, you know, but all of them had this like stamp of like COVID on, you know, like, I
Hmm.
mean, it just like all of it was wild. And I'm kind of glad we didn't do it now because I don't really know how it would have turned out or if it would have been the best idea, but we were grasping at straws for some sort of content. We're not the best at creating content or like showing, putting a window into the lives of the legend crew. So
Right.
yeah, we were just kind of thinking of something to do. And when that fell through and we were like, man, maybe it's not a good idea, we just kind of jumped ship. And then Endless Hallway started kind of just being produced. And that ended up being like our main focal point throughout, you
Yeah.
know, 2020 or whatever. But yeah, I think those things are easily branded in your mind. The best tour experience, I think the most grueling, I've said it on multiple interviews, but
Let's hear it.
for a tour that really stands in mind is the Guar tour. It's
Okay.
back in like maybe 2017 or 18. We did a full Canadian run and like upper Midwest with Guar in like December, like snowing, crazy
Damn.
weather.
Was 2017, was that still before David Brockie died?
No, Dave Rocky was gone. This was like maybe 2018 or 19,
Okay.
just before COVID.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
This is when they put out the record that's basically a tribute to him. And
Oh,
you know,
okay.
not really knowing anything about Guar other than like their fan base is like diehard,
Yeah.
and I really appreciated that. My friends who love Guar were like down ass, true to punk rock, like homies, you know. And then
Hmm.
on that tour, you would notice that there was like really no in between. There were Guar fans who were like battle jacket punk rockers, and there were Guar fans that like came because they love comic book, you know,
Yeah.
and the theatrics of it all. And I went in blind, and we didn't have a merch guy. I was selling merch every night. I was watching the show every night,
Hmm.
and it's a production. It's more akin to theater. I come from I'm a film worker as well, so
Okay. Okay.
watching the production of it and how they handled themselves and just getting to know those guys and knowing that they, you know, they do all the work themselves.
Wow.
There's a documentary on Shudder called This Is Guar.
Hell yeah.
It's also very eye opening for someone who doesn't know what it is. But man, the story of that band is insane. And watching them, I just learned so much about the music industry and how to handle just like touring in general, the gruel of it when you're covered in guar blood at the end of the night. Like Jesse's still finding like red stains on stuff in his drum box even now. So
I've actually still got guar blood all over one of my vests from one of their shows years
yeah.
ago. Anything that had white on the patch is now
Oh yeah.
like pinkish red
Yeah.
from guar blood.
Yeah, and I mean, just their crew, like seeing that, because there was also a band called Ghoul from Oakland that we really loved, and
No shit.
they did the same shit. Like they were characters. They had comic books about the characters. They were thrash metal and like way more our speed as far as like the music was concerned. But like we
Hmm.
were on tour with like this legendary group, and Ghoul was just like they were also the crew and the sound and the like
Yeah,
they worked for Guar as well. So it was like they were allowed to do this and they
that's
were allowed
awesome.
to spray pus and stuff and talk about like their it was great, man. I mean, like I other than that, I think we did the last of the From First to Last runs way back when Sonny
Oh
was still in the
shit.
band. So we were
Okay.
on the last two Dead by Dawn tours, and Sonny still is a great friend. And I mean, I was wandering around with him at 18 years old, like blasting Aphex Twin and like Coco Rosie and stuff, and just turning him on
Damn.
to very weird music. I had a very, very bizarre music taste back then. And yeah, we stayed really tight, but those tours were huge. You could tell that Sonny was a superstar and
Oh
something was,
yeah.
something was, so he had something bigger on him. And I got to kind of watch that all unfold.
That's
He was
wild.
he was sending me demos while he was making his first dubstep stuff, and I had never really even delved into dubstep at all.
Wow.
So yeah, I just like got a taste of this strange electro music from this kid that I loved, and
Hmm.
they also were on maybe one or two shows, maybe a week of shows right before he left the band, and that was us from first to last, Every Time I Die, and Story of the Year.
Holy shit, that's a lineup.
Yeah, it was a good lineup, and
My God.
yeah, so there was like that was back then when you could do stuff like that, and like the shows aren't so pigeonholed to a genre, and like
Hmm.
you could really just move within heavy music, and kids loved it. I
Yeah.
think there's avenues for that now. Our manager Mike Zemer runs a festival in Texas, So What Festival, and they do a lot of intergenre mingling. Like a few years back, we played the same night 2 Chainz and Juicy J played. So like
What?
we're huge hip hop nerds, and
Same.
me and Adam just lost it. Like, I mean, I love 2 Chainz. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like him and I would be homies, like, but that was like one of those things that just I could not get over, that we were like on the same festival
Yeah.
bill as that, and those things, those shows, things like that are the things that stick out in my mind the most when I think of like road life. It often blurs into one. It can get mundane,
Hmm. Hmm.
and your mind gets fractured. You don't remember clubs to cities and where you are, until you walk in and you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
so when something like that happens and it's a true standout event or a lineup that really just like knocks your socks off, I
Hmm.
think those are things that I'll probably revisit on my deathbed. And
Sure.
obviously, we've never really done an event on our own before, but this Hootenanny thing that kind of came out of the woodwork has been so uplifting and like really just solidified our community in North Carolina and gives us a chance to like maybe not be the focal point of a show, but
Uh-huh.
bring our friends along for a big show. It's only going to get more fun. And
Absolutely.
yeah, those are like new things that are happening that are just wild to me. Like these Hollywood shows, I'm meeting like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that dig that record. I'm like,
Wow.
it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if there were bands that, aside from like Fugazi and stuff like that, that I was really into as a 18, 19-year-old that were playing music that's 20 years old.
Hmm.
That this is kind of a new thing that's happening
Yeah.
with this nostalgia bubble that's happening across the nation, but it works. And it's interesting because like the kids that I'm meeting that are like new fans are also huge fans of this record, which you would expect to, a new fan to pick up on newer music.
Right.
So it's really cool. I mean, it's a totally different iteration, and playing this record is bizarre, but it's uplifting.
Yeah. I just got to ask real quick. So back to the hip hop thing. Did you see that Wu-Tang is doing their final
Yeah.
tour and putting
Oh
out an
yeah.
album?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm beyond stoked about that.
Yeah.
We played a festival called Bamboozle in Jersey,
Okay.
and that might have been like right after Suck Out the Poison came out, but it was like the headliners that day were AFI and Method Man and Redman.
Fuck.
But they did a ton of Wu-Tang stuff at that show. And then we played one time in, where was it? I think it was in Boston at the Middle East.
Okay. Okay.
And Jizza was next door in the big room.
Shit.
So we played the Casbah, and then like, walking through a cloud of smoke and just like I like saw Jizza and his whole crew, and I like went in, and I was, nobody expects me to be like a hip hop guy,
Yeah,
but
I get it.
I've always loved it. Like my dad was a cop, and when we were younger, he used to love that Sir Mix-a-Lot album Testarossa.
Oh yeah, it's a great album.
It's a banger front to back. I mean, it
Yeah,
really is. But yeah, I've been on this like vinyl DJing side quest
I
lately.
saw
Like
that.
over the winter time, I've like kind of gotten a couple turntables and a mixer, and I've just been like seeing where it takes me. But it's really really like it's such a fun thing to like curate a vibe. And I think kids that are fans of the band come out to just kind of know what I am into, so I'm
Hmm.
allowed to kind of take it to wherever I want to take it, which it gives me a lot of liberty as a quote unquote selector or whatever,
Sure.
because I'm in no way am I, hard mixing stuff that, like scratching records or doing sound drops or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it's more like a glorified unending playlist, but it's fun, man. It's like it's been a really neat side quest, and I've spent a lot of money on buying some of my favorite albums, but
Hmm.
again, it's like I've been collecting vinyl my whole life, and I turned around one day and just
Same.
looked at this wall of records, and I'm like, I don't listen to this. Like I'm not putting this on in like a high fidelity way.
Hmm.
My turntable was shit back then, and I just like started talking to a guy that did a vinyl night and getting some pointers and like kind of getting the right gear. And
Yeah.
it was really when we started rehearsing for Hollywood that I pulled out the vinyl and put it on, and like hearing it that way, like kind of the way everyone is supposed to hear music,
Right.
it changed something for me. It was like, what? Like, I don't even remember hearing it like this, because whenever I have to listen to it, I'm not jamming to He Is Legend all the time, but like whenever I listen to it, I would throw it on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever.
Right.
But pulling it out of that sleeve and listening to it for the first time, it really like it affected me. And then going in to rehearse it for the first time, it was like it affected me all over again. It was visceral. And so I started just like, I got to hear what Nevermind sounds like.
Yeah.
I got to hear like this Depeche Mode album. I got to hear this Cure, like all these things that I was like, man, I'm missing valuable information within these records by not holding the album artwork in my hands,
Right.
sitting and listening while I'm reading liner notes. Like it's just lost on CDs. And luckily now vinyl is like a huge hip thing,
Yeah.
but it also comes at a price. But
It's a hefty price.
yeah, but I mean, some of these things that the hunt is so rewarding, especially after I quit drinking. I'm like, on the road, I'll find a record store or coffee
Yeah.
shop and just like spend a few hours digging, and maybe you'll walk out with like a gem for cheap. But
Absolutely.
buying new records is tough stuff, man.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that because last year what I did, I started it January 1st of 2024. I went through just my wall of records too, and I wanted to listen to a different record every single day of the year and just spend some time with it and really
Yeah,
just appreciate it for what it was. And
yeah,
there's just something so different about sitting down with the actual vinyl and the liner notes and the gatefold on some of them. I mean, it's a
yeah.
whole ritual. It's an experience.
It totally is. And I like, the current state of the world. My New Year's resolution was to just disconnect from all media.
Yeah.
I still have my social media for whatever promotion and blasting whatever silly political bullshit I see. But my main like takeaway from everything is just like music is the only universal language, and we have to kind of get back to this like centered sit at home and listen
Right.
to
Right.
albums in full. And my placemat for that was to delve into my vinyl collection and to continue to grow it. And there's nothing more rewarding than like spending an evening at home with your lover and like with no TV on, just like enjoying each other with music in the background.
I couldn't agree
It's
more.
yeah,
Couldn't
it's
agree
a
more.
it's a really important thing, and I it saddens me that just like with streaming film, that there's a deluge of too much of it. So like anytime
Mm-hmm.
you go and you click on one of your apps to watch something, like you probably scroll for an hour before you really start a film
Right.
or a show. And I just like that too is part of my resolution, is just like make sure that I'm like watching films that I may not watch. I like
Mm-hmm.
support an art house theater, go to the movies, and just like don't try to watch the trailer, just show up at the time.
Right.
Like I those are things that are kind of I'm getting back to, and it's been really fulfilling, super fulfilling, like putting on the wall and
Yeah.
listening to Pink Floyd's The Wall for the first time on vinyl was like that was one of the ones that hit me really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
just looking through the liner notes and like realizing that, hey, this isn't about the government, this is about the fan.
Right.
And I read something that Roger Waters said, that like the wall was a metaphor for the fact that like they'd gotten so large that within their crowds at these huge shows with lights and inflatable pigs and shit, that they could have not even been there. They could have just played the
Mm-hmm.
record, because he would look out and there would be these microcosms of little parties happening in the crowd
Yeah.
and no one's paying attention. He said we might as well have a wall up.
Okay.
And that whole record like is about the relation, or from what I was reading, it was about the relationship that the fans had taken on for Pink Floyd in that later date, after so much nuance of animals and pigs and Dark Side of the Moon. And then
Mm-hmm.
when the wall comes around, it's just like they're a different level of band. Yeah, so yeah, getting back into like a vinyl evening, me and my girlfriend decided like every Friday night we would go out and buy two records, and just like that would be our thing, put a record
Yeah.
on and sit, because we're not buying booze anymore, so we've got a little extra money to spend, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like let's go buy two records, and that'll be what we do on the weekends, like have a night.
And
I was
that's
really really stoked to continue that. It's been great. Great.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's literally exactly where my head was at. January of last year was just that whole getting away from all of the technology and the apps, and
Yeah.
just sitting down with the music. And part of it too was when you're listening to records, there's no ads. You're never gonna
Right.
have an
Yeah.
ad for anything.
Yeah.
No matter how many
Yeah.
records you sit there and listen to, you're never gonna hear an ad.
Yeah, and there was this thing at first where like, and I don't even know why it was. Maybe it's just like brainwashing of through technology, but like I remember when I first like got my record player set up, like dialed in, and like, I could hear these nuances with
Mm-hmm.
three-way speakers, that like hearing kind of a bass solo on a Nirvana record that you didn't hear
Yeah.
on Apple Music. I just like it floored me, and I at first I was like, "Oh, you got to get up and shift, flip the record. Like that's annoying."
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not fucking annoying. Like this was meant to stop here and give you a moment to flip it and play the other side.
Right.
It's like that kind of that was an epiphany for me of like, why am I even thinking that way? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel more, more coddled with a CD. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm kind of like trying to get out of my over obsession and like spending too much dough on records, because there was a period when I first started DJing where I was like, I have to own these albums that like I know people haven't heard, or like if I'm playing them at a bar where the people are not like versed in metal or punk or whatever, like I want to shake these people a little bit and get them like,
Yeah.
I want them to like feel something more than just like throwing on the fucking Frank Ocean album. I mean,
Right.
no,
Right.
like I do play Blonde a lot, but I like, it's DJs are very typecast, and for good reason. There's multiple kinds. And I think because I'm a musician and I come from this band with longevity, that like I'm not held to any sort of standards, which has given me the liberty
Mm-hmm.
to like go from a Blondie tune to a Melvins tune,
Yeah.
and it can seem seamless in a way because people just know that I'm kind of far out in my music taste. So
Yeah, you're just firing off on all those different levels
yeah,
and
I'm just like punching through, but it's its own thing. It's been really cool. And like now even there's like live painters showing up and people doing like
hmm.
art projects and
Hell
making
yeah.
protest posters and like I mean it's definitely like I feel like this year we have to really reconnect with community face to face and disentangle from technology a little more, and that's at least in my community right now there's something growing outside of my band.
Yeah.
So it's a nice feeling for sure.
Yeah, I know that's fucking awesome. No, it's great that, there are things like that that people are coming together and really just collectively sharing that space to do their own individual art projects that are
Yeah,
still somehow related to each other. I mean, they're sitting there working on their protest posters while you're providing the music that's getting them in
playing
the
calm like a
mood.
bomb.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
exactly.
I mean, when I saw somebody making a protest poster, like the next day I went out and bought Rage because I didn't have
Yeah.
any Rage on vinyl, and I was like because I'm reading the room obviously,
Hmm.
and starting, I'll start because I start at like 6, so it's still kind of half daylight. There still might be some like gray hairs at the bar,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I have no problem starting my set with like John Prine and Neil Young and like Thelonious Monk or,
Fuck, I love
I mean,
Thelonious Monk.
yeah, and but not being pigeonholed to be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing soul or jazz or like whatever. So coming out of like, I would still kind of have like a smart ass grin because I'm playing like your flag decal won't get you back to heaven anymore or whatever. But John Prine and like still kind of, testing the waters. But when I really just was like, I'm going to play what I want to play. The first couple of times I was really nervous and like trying to do this kind of big flow and
Hmm.
not really diving into punk or metal at all. But the first time I started playing metal records, like I played War Inside My Head by Suicidal Tendencies,
Hell yeah.
and there was a girl in the corner who looked terrified, and I just like went, I'm sorry, and like prayer hands,
Yeah.
and she just like with this terrified look on her face was like shaking her head no and like gave me a thumbs up. She's like
Nice.
I'm having a blast, and it made me feel so good because I've had people come up and be like, man, it's like watching a movie, like you're all over the place but it's cool. It's like looking inside the mind of someone with ADD. I'm like, well, there you go.
It is.
But yeah, I think maybe I'm blessed that my band has a name that I am not just getting kind of booed off the stage for drastically shifting tempos and stuff like
Right.
that, because I have no desire to learn what even house music means. Like I mean I know what it means, but I don't care. I love curating the vibe. That's why I really love bartending, is because I can play whatever music I want when I'm
Hmm.
back there. So
Yeah.
this kind of just came out of that and my relationship with the bar that me and Jesse work at. I've been there for 15 years. So it just all kind of worked out in the right way over our downtime in the band. And I've just been having a blast and it's been growing. I've like done some out of town gigs
Hell yeah.
lately, and yeah, just seeing where it goes. Hopefully, I can do a little tour one day and just like go out by myself in the van and see the world on my own. It'd be an interesting juxtaposition to the way I've been seeing it for 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'd be rad. Yeah. I mean, just getting instead of loading up the trailer with, all the instruments and stuff, loaded up with records and some
Yeah,
turntables and just
yeah.
just
I mean,
ride.
I went ahead just because I come from a school of tour. Like when I first got my turntables, I was like, I've got to get a road case,
Oh yeah.
So like I probably dropped more money on my case just because I was like, what if I take this on the road? What if we do like after parties at shows? And like,
Yeah.
I'm a big dreamer, so things like that started happening, and I was like, whoa, I'm getting way ahead of myself. But now, I mean, I went to Raleigh the other day and did a gig last Saturday, and I was like all like just set up and ready to plug and play. So I mean,
Rad.
it's nice that that's happened that way.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I can definitely think that, if you took that on the road, people would definitely show up just to hang out, just a night of just chilling,
Yeah, we were
music
out
and
honestly just talking about it like with the band, what it could look like to do like to do like an hour or two after a show. And obviously it would have to coincide with like not having a bust ass drive the next day. And,
Right.
maybe the venue has a Casbah or a secondary room, or like there's a bar down the street where it would fly. But yeah, I think sometime in the future we'll try to do that in some cities where we could fill a room, and
Yeah.
have the band be able to just chill and drink and not be setting up for a show, and they can just hang out and I'll do the work and just curate the vibe. I have such a blast doing it. Like it'd be really fun to take it on the road with the band and do it in tandem. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe next year, sometime later this year, we'll get an opportunity to do it. Maybe I'll do it at the Hootenanny and do a bunch of Christmas tunes.
That'd be rad. I mean, there's a lot of surprising bands have Christmas albums. So I mean, you can
Yeah,
make a really cool night of just random Christmas
yeah.
albums. I mean, even
I mean,
Snoop Dogg has a good one.
I started this around Christmas time, and I had to pull out a lot of stuff, and I just like, Christmas albums are cheap and they're
Oh
everywhere, and like if
yeah.
you buy them in the off seasons, like they're going for
Mm-hmm.
nothing. There were certain records that I already had because I love Christmas. I grew up like my whole family is just like big. My initials are SC. There's this running joke
Oh
that like
shit.
all of my jobs that I've had, like working as a prop master and set decoration, and just all of my little gigs have been slowly setting me up to become Santa Claus. So, and now that we do this Christmas show every year, it's like one step closer. So yeah, I'll take it. I mean, my beard's turning gray. It's like
Yeah.
it's happening.
You just gotta paint the van red and put some little yellow
Yeah,
gold
dog.
bells on the side or something.
Yeah,
And
for sure, for sure. There's a screenplay in there waiting to come out of me.
living here in LA, I'm pretty sure I can make that screenplay happen.
I've actually got a couple I've been writing for a while. I'd love to direct. I mean, that's kind of an aspiration that I
Hmm.
have. I've worked on film since like 2009,
Okay.
but as a prop master, I would always get to read the scripts. And my production designer, really good friend of mine, we went to a show last weekend. He'll send me scripts that he gets, and he gets big looks. So I've read a lot of screenplays. I've read edits of them when they've
Hmm.
been really bad into like really good.
Wow.
So it's been a great learning experience. And when I take a film on, I usually, like, that's part of my stipulation, is that I can read the script, because often as a set dresser or lower in the art department, you don't even get the script.
Right.
You usually won't even know. You might get your sides that day to know what's popping or not. But yeah, I've been working on a horror for a long time, and
Hell yeah.
yeah, I'm rounding the corner on finishing the script. I'm pretty excited. A friend of mine I grew up with, well, not grew up with, but in the infancy of He Is Legend, Hillary
Mhm.
Burton. She was an MTV VJ, but she was on One Tree Hill, and
Oh wow.
her husband Jeffrey Dean Morgan was just in a movie called Bloody Axe Wound,
Hold on.
and they
You can't just casually mention her husband is Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
yeah,
That's no big deal. I mean, that's fucking
yeah,
Jeffrey
he's
Dean Morgan. I mean, that's a big deal.
yeah. So he was walking through, like her kids, now their kids are Legend fans, because I mean something happened during White Bat, like Boogie Woman captured the childlike mind,
Oh, that's a great
and
song.
a ton of children love Boogie Woman. I mean, I like, clearly it comes from like my love of Rob Zombie, and like
Hmm.
this whole vibe of carrying the China White character around in my pocket. But
Yeah.
so they were listening to White Bat one day, and I think Burn All Your Rock Records came on,
Great song too.
and Jeff was walking through the house, and he was like, "Wait, what is that?" And Hillary was like, "That's my buddy Schuylar. Like, I've known him for 20 years. It's their new record." And he was like, "That sounds like the opening to our movie." And so we worked hard to get them the songs they wanted, but they ended up putting three or four tunes in the movie. It's a Shudder.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like the lead in it. It's called Bloody Axe Wound. I'll pop that off for everybody to check out, because there's some legend tunes in there. But
Yeah.
I mean, Hillary's stuck her neck out for our band since the very beginning, and a
Okay.
really dear friend. And yeah, she and Jeff got married. God, it's been ages now, but their kid Gus, like, is turning into a little rocker, and
Hell yeah.
is is fucking with He Is Legend. So that's dope. But I mean, it came from the children. Like they listened to the record and then he hears it and is like, oh, we need to put this in this film. So yeah, like I'll probably be sending my screenplay to her to see.
Yeah.
My little film circle is it grows with every picture I do. But I mean, I feel very fortunate that that's completely separate from He Is Legend. Like
Hmm.
most people on set know nothing about my band
Wow.
until
Okay.
word gets out, and vice versa. Like a lot of people in the music scene don't know that I, worked for Jeff Nichols and worked on Eastbound and Down, and
Wow.
Black Telephone was shot in my neighborhood. Like there's
Damn.
yeah, there's a big film community in Wilmington,
I
and
had no idea.
yeah. I mean, if you look up the list of things that are shot here, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Firestarter,
What?
Super Mario Brothers movie, Blue Velvet was Blue Velvet was is my town. Like if you want to know what Wilmington is,
Yeah.
watch Blue Velvet. Lumberton is is Wilmington. I mean, it's like every little landmark is still here,
Okay.
pretty much. We just when David Lynch died, they had a big showing at our local art house, and I went. It was very visceral. I've always had this connection with David Lynch through
Hmm.
that, and yeah, it was like I left there and went to a little like Latin fusion restaurant that was Rosie's, like, or whatever the bar is called. Like
Wow.
it's a little brick house right
Hmm.
behind the theater, and it's like, oh, this is the bar. Like so,
That's wild.
there's a bar on Front Street in Wilmington that is called Barbary Coast. It's like the oldest dive bar in Wilmington, but they still have the neon sign from Blue Velvet that says "This is it," and it's in the
Nice.
window. Like so, there's all these like Wilmington has a lot of nods to David Lynch, even still. Our film festival here every year, Cucaloris, always does something Blue Velvet inspired, and
Okay.
it's a catalyst for a lot of filmmakers here in town.
Damn. Yeah, that's fucking rad. Just speaking of the film stuff, just totally unrelated. My wife and my sister have a podcast about horror movies and stuff it's called Final Girls, and they
Oh,
talk
cool.
about the final girl at the end of all sorts of
I love
horror
that.
movies. Yeah.
I would love to be on that podcast. Link me up. That's awesome.
I can absolutely do that. She's sitting right back there working
Oh,
on some of
cool.
the artwork right now.
Yeah, groovy. Yeah, I mean, I like He Is Legend has always been horror adjacent.
Oh yeah.
I think I mean Spencer from Ice Nine Kills will tell you that our song The Carpet is like a huge inspiration to what they do. And I think what they do is cool. It like, we played their Silver Screen Festival. It's gotten so huge, like so much of a thing. But I think our fans know that like our content is kind of more like fairy tale horror. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, Jason in that way. But I definitely like anytime I get offered to do a horror podcast or talk about anything in the genre, I'm always gung ho. So
Hell yeah, yeah. I'll definitely link you guys up because yeah, they actually recorded another episode last night. They always come out on Wednesdays, so yeah, I can definitely link
if
you
they
guys up.
haven't done one on Slither, that's my favorite, and that's like my favorite, like one of my all time favorite movies. Just because when I first found out about it, I think I saw it in the theaters. I loved it, and I bought the Blu-ray, or maybe it was just the DVD back then. But
Hmm.
the extra content was like so pivotal to like a young filmmaker and
Hmm.
someone who like aspires to do genre film. All the extra content on the Blu-ray was like how to make blood, how to make slime, how to make
Yeah.
prosthetics, and like that's another thing that's lost with the tangibility of tangible media. When you're streaming something online, often it doesn't even let you go watch the credits to the end.
Right, right,
So
yeah.
like you're not going to see these like bonus content features that you would get on a Blu-ray or something like that. And that's why I still to this day, like I mainly only buy horror
Hmm.
on DVD or like, interesting Criterion things where there's commentary and tutorials and like behind the scenes footage because that's the stuff that I love to see.
Right. Yeah. I like to see how that stuff was made too. And you're right about the loss of tangibility in that sense, because, anytime you ever bought a DVD for those years that DVDs were super popular, every DVD had the deleted scenes, the bonus
Yeah, dude.
features, the director commentary, all sorts of stuff. And nowadays, I don't even know how you would find that for a
Yeah,
movie. Like
I don't even know
anything.
if I don't even know if they shoot that shit anymore because of this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I kind of spent COVID working on a lot of TV shows, and I did like one picture, but it was a straight to Netflix thing, I think. And well, I did a few pictures, but they were like mainly I did some stuff for Netflix, I did some stuff for Fox.
Okay.
And TV was it's lost on me now. I don't love the work as far as like set decoration, purchasing, set dressing. It's all of the work is cool, but there's something about the way they format TV shows now. Everything is always open-ended, even if it doesn't get picked up for a second season. They
Yeah.
leave it open-ended for the possibility of being picked up for a second
Mm-hmm.
season or being too huge to wrap up a story succinctly. And that just like it burns me up a bit because now you're seeing like remakes more prevalent. There's just like there's not a lot of storytelling that finishes, whereas like
Right.
in a final girl situation, like that final girl is there because it gives hope to a character. It also allows for that person to relive the experience over and over and over if the
Mm-hmm.
film gets franchised, especially within horror. I mean, that is just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Look at the Scream franchise with like even in these stories in Scream where it's like it goes off into another world, they still bring back some of these main characters,
Mm-hmm.
even for just like, posterity. So yeah, that kind of burns me up. I love seeing the extra content. Like I
Yeah.
love, like my copies of Army of Darkness, like the making of those movies are like so pivotal
Oh
to
yeah.
know like what you're seeing when you watch it. And the first film I ever worked on blew my mind when I first saw a process trailer with a car on the back. I was like, wait, they don't drive? They're not really driving? I could not believe it. I was like, how are we not seeing that they're like 12 feet off the ground in this
Yeah.
Honda in this Prius, like
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, being on set changes the way you watch movies forever, but like
Right.
when I was a kid, seeing the behind the scenes stuff was like why I wanted to be on set in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I wonder if you scour YouTube, can you find some of these things if they're actually doing any extra content for stuff like that? But I highly doubt it. I mean, like my Blu-rays or my DVD for like we're big Seinfeld fans,
Okay.
and Seinfeld's always been like just it's so funny to me because they're all such bad people. They're like
Right.
all just bad people.
Just terrible.
Kramer's the only one who's like kind-hearted, but they all
Mm-hmm.
think he's just insane. But the extra content on those DVDs, like hours of bloopers, like
Yeah.
hours, and
Hours.
just like so much good stuff in there that you just like you won't see unless you buy the Blu-rays or the
Yeah.
box set. So yeah, highly. I mean, I guess if we can take one thing away from this conversation is like get back into tangible media, buy records, look at the album artwork big, especially our last two albums like White Bat and Endless Hallway.
Mm-hmm.
The album artwork is so important to me. Working with Matt Ryan Tobin, who's huge in the horror genre, he's a fan, he's a friend, and we go really hard into making the album artwork. So it's like not seeing it at all if you're streaming it. Like it's fine if that's the way you get your music, but you holding White Bat in your hand and Endless Hallway in your hand and seeing that there are conjunctures in the two records,
Yeah.
there's little Easter eggs within the two records to let you know that like the artwork was created by the same person. That's stuff that might be lost on a lot of people, and it's super important to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, a lot of people these days, it seems like they don't even know that albums even necessarily have album artwork to begin with. I mean, you pull up something on Spotify and, rarely when you're listening to something does it actually show you the album artwork. I mean, you have to do a lot of legwork to try to find it in most cases these days.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't even like again, I don't know that I've been on yeah, there's a lot lost on people just because media is only streaming now, and I think we're slowly getting away from that, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
hope so.
I do too. I mean, I do see these like, Criterion collection things where people are still buying. I mean, I know those DVDs still sell. I
Yeah,
know anime is usually like hard to find certain things unless you're buying tangible copies.
right.
And the same thing with music, like vinyl gets pressed, and you might, if you're an indie band, you might press 1,000 maybe,
Hmm.
in most scenarios. And then, a year or two later, they might do another pressing. If it pops off the shelves, then normally you're paying like 50 to $100 for it on Discogs,
Yeah,
which is another crazy thing, like vinyl flippers,
right.
and you can't get away from it. I mean, there's not really a way to stop it. The only way we've ever been able to really stop it is when we signed 100 copies of I Am Hollywood and sent them out from my house, which ended up costing us more money than what we charged for them. But
Damn.
yeah, there was just like, even in that instance where we like set up a Squarespace, did it all from my house, we still had people trying to buy like 10 copies. And
Hmm.
we were just like, no, like, sorry, we have to refund this. And then there'll be 10 more in an hour. It
Ah,
was, it was a nightmare, but yeah, we learned a lot from that too. Luckily now our merch guy is a homie, and he's been doing it for so long. He's got the ins and outs on how to really maneuver this. So
hell
whole
yeah.
shout out to Danny at Holy Mountain Printing.
Yeah, Danny, thank you for doing all the hard work you're doing.
Yeah, he's kicking ass, man.
No, the funny thing about vinyl is I was telling my wife before Christmas that one thing that I really wanted to spend this year focusing on was finally getting a lot of those albums from bands that we listened to back in high school 20 plus years ago. Because at that
Yeah,
point in time, a lot of those bands, I mean, you're in one of them, not a lot of stuff was really getting pressed on vinyl at that point in time. So it just
I
didn't
mean,
exist.
Suck Out the Poison is being pressed for the first time this year. And
That's
I don't
exactly
know
what
if
I mean.
many people, yeah, I don't know if many people know that. I mean, this I'm Hollywood was just pressed in 2022. Like, yeah, the early aughts and like this huge kind of emo, screamo, grind, whatever genre, metalcore you want to call it. It's record labels are they have horse blinders on, and
Yeah,
they just go with the flow. So like if it's not selling, they're not going to do it.
right.
And regardless of what it is, you have to do a lot of pushback to even do something. I mean, it was very hard for me to cut a hole in the front of Endless Hallway so that you could see through the vinyl. Like I had to push for that,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like naysayed a lot, and I was like, this is how it's got to be. Like it's a vision, it's part of the record. So finally, I mean, Spine Farm's awesome. They gave us our creative control has always been there. We've
Okay.
never had somebody telling us like you can't do that, or you can't press that. Like we basically hand in our records.
Hmm.
So luckily we got to do the album exactly the way we wanted to, and with White Bat, like
Hell yeah.
because we had an artist that was super into working with it,
Yeah.
like pushing me to create art a little more. I mean, Matt Ryan Tobin is the reason why I started doing these like very elaborate lyric sheets. I mean, it's just like I was kind of doodling shit to let him see what I had in mind. He was like, dude, this is awesome. Let's just use this. I was like,
Yeah.
no way. But like having somebody encourage you as an artist and telling you like, no, it might be crude, but it's you. I mean,
Hmm.
it really gave me a lot of like just inspiration, and
Sure.
yeah, it was just like I was enthusiastic about drawing more and like getting back into what I came from, like this youth. My grandmother was an artist. She painted till the day she died.
Rad.
She sculpted as well. Like every weekend I would go over there and we would just do little art projects, and that became lost on me for so long,
Hmm.
and now getting back into this kind of artist mentality, I cherish that. I cherish those things. I cherish my little notebooks and these lyric sheets that like no two are different. To me, for a while, I'd like cringe looking at them, but now I see growth in what I do. The process is getting a lot simpler, although it takes me a while, like to do them. It's so rewarding for me because I know these people have like this piece of art and literature or poetry that goes along with He Is Legend's music, but it's like a window into these characters that I create when I
Yeah.
write lyrics. So
And that's important for people.
yeah,
That's super
and it's
important.
It's not, it's not that expensive. It's a big giant. Like I have one. I started over there on my easel. I don't know
Oh
if you can
yeah.
see it way in the background, but yeah. I mean, it's like it's just it's part of my record consuming
Hmm.
thing. I'll throw a record on and I'll just do the illustrations to the song that I wrote lyrics to. So it's another iteration of like tangible art.
Right.
Tangible media.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, man, I really hope, people really try to go back to that more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, like trying to get all these records that may or may not have been pressed. I mean, they're definitely getting pressed now,
Yeah.
regardless of what they are. I mean, I'm finding stuff lately, record store days really good for that, I
Hmm.
mean, and it's cool that that's kind of come out with pressing a lot of these early alt bands and finding things that you wouldn't normally think you're going to find. But yeah, I would say if anyone could learn anything from this podcast, it's that holding that piece of media in your hand rather than your phone will create less distraction
Yes.
between you and that art that you're taking in. If you buy the DVD for I'm just looking at my DVDs right now. If you buy the DVD for the Babadook, like the
Yeah.
trailers that come with that are
Right.
going to be adjacent to it. You're not going to be like just seeing the coming attractions or like, that's part of it for me. Like if I go to a movie, I make sure to get there early enough to see all the trailers because that's
A
what I
hundred
loved as a
percent.
kid.
Yeah.
If I miss the trailers, I don't want to see the movie.
Right. It's part of the experience.
Yeah, and that's like that's something that will be on a Blu-ray that will not be on will not be on Netflix.
Right.
You might even miss like the little clip of what, the little teaser at the end of the credits because Netflix isn't going to let you see the whole credits. You kind of have to
Yeah.
like select that to watch the credits to make sure there's not like a 4-minute clip of something at the end like Marvel does those teasers or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I always look for that. I always stay seated in the theater and wait for the credits to roll just in case.
Of
I
course.
also, being a filmmaker, I like to know if I know anybody that worked on it. I like to read, who the production designer was, who did the music. Like,
Yeah.
I'll
Where it
clock
was
certain
shot.
songs. Yeah, where it was shot. Like, that's a big one for me when I'm like, where is this?
Yeah.
Like especially like you see like a Batman movie or something, and you're like, what can look like Gotham? Like where are they doing this? Gotham's such a distinct, descriptive place to where like different Gotham shot in different cities. It's really interesting to follow that
Hmm.
lineage.
Well, even yeah, like going back to like the 90s with like the Joel Schumacher films. I mean, I think it was the what was it? The Val Kilmer one was the first one where they actually used a lot of like miniatures to
Yeah,
make Gotham feel like a real big visceral like a living entity of a city, whereas in
yeah.
Batman Returns with, Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito, that one was mostly shot on sound stages.
Yeah, stages. I mean, Tim Burton is like clearly that's kind of his vibe. That's also Batman Returns is one of my favorite unintentional Christmas movies.
100%. I watch it every year for Christmas.
Yeah, it's so good. But I think like one cool thing about that with the models and stuff, I didn't work with him, but The Crow was shot in Wilmington.
Oh, okay.
And that's like a big lore movie here.
Wow.
But the guy who did the models for The Crow, I actually met him and he kind of consulted me on the music video for Endless Hallway. So
Yeah.
the Endless Hallway music video is insane and it's like so much to take in. Like they just let me run wild with the set design and I just it was my first
Hell
kind of
yeah.
being able to direct something, and we put a ton of work into that alone, like in all the songs that led up to it, kind of creating this story for it. But I consulted with this guy who did miniatures, and he just his all he put out a book when there were just Polaroids of like little monsters. He built the set for little monsters.
Damn.
He did a lot of the stuff for Super Mario Brothers. So like all of that set work, it
Hmm.
was all there were a lot of miniatures in that. New York was where they shot most of the exteriors in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but all the sewer stuff was shot in Wilmington on a sound
Wow.
stage. But yeah, I just got to go into this kind of kooky filmmaker, like model maker guy's warehouse and just look at all of these things from film and like get tips on forced perspective
Mm-hmm.
and like how to set up this hallway to look like it was, more of a like it was a soundstage and we were literally just in a warehouse like blacking out
Yeah.
things and making it look far away. But yeah, I learned a lot from that guy, and to see he still has some stuff from the Crow, like little tiny cars and like some of the buildings and stuff like that. It's so cool.
That's super awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Schuylar, what's I mean, I was gonna ask, what's next up on the musical horizon for this year, but I think we already know that, we got
Yeah.
the Cancer Bats tour.
Oh yeah, doing the Hootenanny or the we'll do the Hootenanny again in December. We'll do this Hollywood run, couple other tours on the books that should be announced soon. And we've been writing a new record. So
Hell yeah. Fuck
I'd
yeah.
say new record next year, and we'll probably jump in the studio at the end of the year. We like to record in the wintertime.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so we got a busy year, and hopefully a busy 2026.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see you out there. You said you're coming to the whiskey. Hit me up. I'll put you on the list.
Hell yeah, man. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Lastly here, how do we book you for birthday parties and quinceañeras? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I mean, I'm always pretty vocal on Instagram is really my only social that I still engage with. I get on the Reddit sub forums
Okay.
for He Is Legend, and I answer most questions there when people hit me up. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Crucial Dude. You can find He Is Legend at He Is Legend NC. Yeah, other than that, I'm pretty available. People know how to get me.
Hell yeah. It worked for me.
Yeah, it worked for you. And I'm happy to have this conversation, man. It was really it's nice to talk about film and music, and the lost art of holding a record in your hand. Hopefully,
Yes.
it's not dead yet.
Hopefully not. Well, hot damn, everyone. That was Schuylar Croom himself from He Is Fucking Legend. What a most excellent ride that was through Wilmington
Yeah,
and
man.
beyond, man.
Thanks for having me, Slavey. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for sitting down with me, man.
Absolutely, we'll do it again
Yeah. Good luck on the road out there with Cancer Bats.
for
And
sure.
I'll see you at the whiskey.
My pleasure, man.
All right, everyone. Stay tuned for more strange and unusual true tales from tour. Thanks for listening to the Hesh Files. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Peace. Be easy.